Hey folks, Jessica here. So it's Unite Fight. Surprise! I say surprise because I completely forgot it's Unite Fight until I opened Granblue this morning and it's like, oh shit, it's Unite Fight. I need to record a video on one-turn kills. So today, that's what we're going to be talking about. OTKs, one-turn kills. How to set up an OTK for Earth for... Specifically, I'll show you my grid, but we'll talk about some general pointers on how to get there, like the steps to figuring out what the perfect OTK setup is for you and whatever you might have. So to start things off, I'll just show you what my OTK looks like. Totally fair question to ask, and one that a lot of new players will ask is why does an OTK setup matter so much? Why, whenever United Fight comes around, does everyone start talking about how their one-turn kill is set up? The reason is because EX Plus, Extreme Plus, is the fastest way to gain meat. And you need meat in order to summon the nightmare bosses, the NM bosses. And that's basically the fastest way to get honor for your crew. And United Fight's all about getting honor so you can beat the other crew. Now, a thing also to note is EX Plus is also the fastest way to get boxes, tokens to get draws to do things like 40 box if you're working on Eternal, that kind of thing. Um, Nightmare is not actually the fastest way to get tokens. Keep that in mind. If you just are just trying to get tokens, just spamming EX Plus is the fastest way to get tokens. So that's why OTKs are such a big deal for people. I think that context will help as we move forward. One thing to mention, it's not strike time and there's no attack ace in effect for my crew right now. I bring that up because if you are trying to figure out an OTK setup and attack ace is in effect, you'll get in a place where you're like, oh, I can totally one-turn kill this boss, and then attack ace will go away, and you'll be like, shit, why can't I one-turn kill this boss anymore? That's why. So do make sure you check for that, because I have made that mistake before, that's why I'm mentioning it. So someone mentioned my Illnet character spotlight, where I was showcasing a one-button one-turn kill setup, that if I have access to Tsukinoko, I can actually do a 0-button one-turn kill setup. So the issue with that, and I totally agree, that's absolutely accurate. There's no Tsuchinokos in my support list, and I don't have one. There's none in this tab either. And that's not that surprising, because Tsuchinoko is a fairly new summon, and it's not ticketable, and it's limited. So not that many people have Tsuchinoko. If you have Tsuchinoko, then live the dream. Just do a 0-button OTK setup like that. But if you don't have a Tsuchinoko, something you very likely do have access to is Huanglong, either on your end or through a support summon. And Huanglong works pretty well. A Tsuchinoko, for reference, is, I believe it's 100% Earth attack, and then 30% charge bar to all characters at battle start. And it scales up if you fully uncap Tsuchinoko. Huanglong is only 50%. So that's going to be a little bit of an issue, because that means your grid's going to have to do that much more lifting, and your team's going to have to be that much better set up. This is 50% versus, say, like 150% to relevant skills if you're running Titan, or same thing if you're running Yggdrasil for Primal and Magna, respectively, or 140% if you're running like a fully uncapped Alexiel. Like 50% is not a ton. So you're gonna have a very good team and grid in order to do it like this. But I am set up for this, so let's take a look at what this looks like, and then I'll talk about the details afterwards. So I've hit no buttons. I'm just gonna attack. So 78%. 52%. 36%. 10%. 2%, and Silva kills them. Yeah. So 0 buttons. Now why that is why that's really important is because that means farming meat looks like this. I can just hit play again, and then boop, 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 reload, done. Then one more time, because that took no time at all. Play again, boop, Boop. Attack. Refresh. Done. You probably get like, I don't know, like 5 or 6 clears in a minute, if not more. Goes really fast this way. This is the fastest way to get tokens and to get meat, and that's why a 0 button 1 turn kill setup is basically the dream for United Fight. Let's talk about the team. So the first thing to talk about here is Jita's class. I'm running Cavalier on Jita for 2 reasons. First one is Cavalier is spear/gun specialty, which aligns with the weapons I try to use for an OTK setup. We'll talk more about that when we talk about the grid. But the other reason is this passive, Order of the Heavy Cavalry. So if Jita is using a spear, she will counter upon taking damage up to 2 hits. Why that matters is because the boss, when low health, has an aura attack, and that can hit Jita. It randomly targets allies, and if any of those hits hit Jita, she will counter up to 2 times. I don't like relying on that for the kill because while that is a lot of extra damage, the aura might not actually hit Jita. It might not target her at all, in which case you won't get that damage and you'll miss the 1 turn kill. That said, if you're pretty close and you just need a little bit of extra damage and you don't mind the inconsistency, then that is totally a valid strategy as well. Okay, the characters. We'll talk about them left to right. So the first one to talk about is Sora's. And the main reason to use Sora's is he has this skill, Fundoshi Fist, which is a skill damage nuke that automatically happens when he charge attacks, and that adds quite a lot of damage. How do you actually say that? Fundoshi Fisto. Fundoshi Fisto. I'm just going to say Fundoshi Fist because I'm a gaijin. Source is also very good for a full auto setup. Also, I should clarify this. I have kind of down-talked Sora's in the past because I really don't like one aspect of his design. Here, we'll talk about it. The thing that really annoys me about Sora's is this effect, Macho Ultimatum. So he gains an attack up based on the number of females on the team. In addition to that, it cares about main character's gender. So if you're running Gran as your main character, the boy MC, you get less attack out of Sora's. You have to switch to Jita to get the full, the female MC to get the full attack bonus. That's super annoying. It's 2021, guys. You can't be pulling this shit. But yeah, so like that really bothers me because like honestly, I don't play Gran, I play Jita. So I don't this isn't actually a problem for me, but it's the principle of it that's really annoying. Like 2021, guys. So anyway, Sora's, that aside, is a great character and quite good for this setup. Next character, Ilnut. I did a full character spotlight on her. If you want to know like all the details about Ilnut, you can go look at that. But the main reason you use her here is purely Summer Prank. So when Ilnut is main ally at battle start, 40% boost to Earth allies charge bars. So if you're in a crew that is running the 30% boost to charge bars at battle start, which you should be, like you should be. If you're not, let me know because I have questions. So that's 30%. Ilnut gives you 40%. Long or Uriel or any of various effects give you the last 30% to get you 100%, gets you full charge bar so you can charge attack to 1 turn kill. Ilnut's charge attack bomb the system doesn't actually activate the peace out skill here because she won't have one piece stacked at the beginning of the fight. So yeah, bomb the system is just a regular charge attack, but it's fine. The charge bar is the reason you use her. Third character, and a lot of people might ask, why aren't you running Octo? I do normally run Octo for, say, a 1-button OTK setup, but the issue with 0 buttons is I can't actually get them to 200% charge bar, with my team at least, without hitting any buttons. And you really need him at 200% charge bar when it's his turn to attack in order to benefit from him. So instead, I'm running Siegfried. And the main reason I run Siegfried is purely that he has this bonus damage effect on his charge attack. He will nuke the boss for extra damage. And every little bit of extra damage counts. And speaking of every little bit of extra damage, that's also why I run Silva in the back row, which did matter if you go back and look at that OTK footage. And that's because of Ocean Bullet. When sub-ally, bonus nerf damage to foe upon using the Chamber's Diastrophism. Diastrophism. I've never said that before. That's a fun word to say. So when you chain burst with 4 characters or more, she will shoot the boss for extra damage. And that extra damage is pretty significant in the setup. And then in addition to that, we're running Kame back row because of course we are. We're running Highlander grid, and the extra attack up and damage cap up from the Hangman reverse, this sub-ally effect when you're running a Highlander grid, is absolutely essential for us to do enough damage to actually OTK the boss. Let's talk about grids. So this is my grid for OTK, and it's a Titan grid. It's a primal grid. I'm not a Magna specialist, but some of the advice I'll give here will generally apply as well as if you're looking for weapons to fill a Magna grid. So the main hand I'm using is Dagger Peak, and this is totally farmable. It's from Proving Grounds, and the main reason I'm using it is this effect: bonus 5 hit Earth damage on charge attack plus hit to Earth defense. Essentially, there's a skill damage nuke on charge attack, and that extra skill damage is quite a lot. In addition to that, big boost to Earth Allies attack, instant EX boost, and then boost to skill damage cap for Earth Allies. So again, cap up. Gauntlet Proud Earth is a seraphic weapon. This thing amplifies your Earth Allies damage against water foes. So again, elemental advantage cap up essentially. This is Greatsword Andalius, which is Althea's weapon. If you're not familiar, Althea is a very old school character. And the main reason you use it is boost to Earth Allies damage cap. You're going to see a lot of the word damage cap when we talk about this. Really, if you're running a Highlander grid, this is pretty non-negotiable. Scales of Dominion is single-handedly the weapon that made Highlander grids a thing. I did an extensive discussion about Highlander grids and scales specifically in my Highlander grid video, which is on the channel. You can look it up. But the main reason you run this is boost to attack and damage cap when all equipped weapons are different. And also keep in mind, Kame gets a similar effect, so that's why Highlander's so good in Earth. You're essentially doubling down on this kind of effect. Yggdrasil's Bow is interesting. So boost to Earth Allies skill damage cap, but it's based on number of buffs. So you're not gaining as much from this as you might think in a 0 button setup anyways, because your characters aren't going to have that many buffs on turn 1 with no button pressed. But the other reason to run this is unworldly EX boost to Earth Allies attack. So sizable boost and totally makes sense here. All Might Spear, you're primarily running this for charge attack damage cap. Again, you're going to see a lot of the word damage cap. My Dark Opus weapon, Harper Repudiation. Harper Repudiation is the primal version. There's a Magna version as well. I'm running the charge attack damage cap key. I'm also running the stamina key. Baihu Claw, Malice specifically. The Malice key gives Earth Allies damage cap. Two things that don't give damage cap. Ichigo Heat of Fury, running it because it is massive attack and then medium stamina, which is a very good weapon. Stamina is fine here because it's turn 1. You're not hitting any buttons, so everyone will be full health. And then technically, Galleon's Jaw doesn't give damage cap, but it kind of does. So this is a very, very important piece of the puzzle. This will add a lot of damage for an OTK setup. It's kind of built exactly for an OTK setup, if I'm honest. So Galleon's Jaw, massive boost to Earth Allies damage cap. So that's nice. But the big thing is Gold Covenant, supplemental Earth Allies charge attack damage. So what this does, here, I'll just pull up on a browser, is it adds a flat amount of extra damage to a charge attack. Browser windows 2, there we go. Okay, so it adds about 400,000 extra damage to each charge attack. So if there's 4 charge attacks, then it's adding 1.6 million extra damage, which is pretty sizable. This does stack up. The more of these you use, if you use 2, it's 800,000. You use 3, then it's capped at 1 million. So I wouldn't recommend 3. I wouldn't even recommend 2, though, because you're running Highlander. If you're running a non-Highlander setup, then you're going to want 2 of these, because that's a significant, like 800,000 to each charge attack is quite large. So yeah, Galleon's Jaw definitely worth farming if you're trying to OTK and you're having a little bit of trouble, because it will add a lot of damage, and it is farmable. It's from the 6 Dragon raids. Kind of a pain to farm, if I'm honest. But if you do 6 Dragon raids, you host it every day, you'll get enough for these eventually. Let's talk summons real fast. These are ones I'm using. I'm running Titan, but Yggdrasil is totally fine. And then Hanged Man is our Karum summon. It gives you Amplify Earth Allies damage against water foes by 10%, so essentially a 10% damage cap. And then Uriel as well gives 10% damage cap to Earth Allies if he's fully uncapped, so those are both very good. Belial is obviously pretty good because supplemental damage per hit, and really everything adds up. And then the one you might be wondering about is why am I running Hades here? It's really just because Hades is the summon that I have access to that has the highest raw attack. So 4,293 is pretty high, but there's a lot of better options. Now, I normally run Dogu in the slot, and Dogu is a crest summon. But the problem is, because Dogu is a crest summon, I'm not really gaining any benefit because I don't have crest on turn 1 with no buttons pressed. If you have Galleon and you're running Primal, Galleon is the 6 Dragon Advent summon that they just recently added that boosts all the Earth Primal skills, then yeah, obviously run Galleon there, we'd rate. But in this case, I'm just running the thing that gives me the most raw attack. Beyond all that, let's talk about other preparations you make. Everything is plus 99. All the weapons in the grid, all the summons are plus 99. All the characters are plus 300 where applicable. Like, every bit counts, so all that is super helpful. In addition to that, all of the relevant EMP, I picked up all the relevant EMPs, right? So I'm using a spear, so especially weapon 1, charge attack damage, chain burst damage, damage cap, charge attack damage. I could actually do this if I want even more damage. Really, everything possible that would help here, you should really invest in, because all that damage will really start adding up. It's like, yeah, skill damage as well. Now, beyond that, similar thought for all the characters. So let's look at the party. So Ilnat's fully awoken. Her relevant skill here, charge attack damage cap, is leveled up. Her ring gives her charge attack damage cap. And Morning Peas, I would probably do something like up her regular charge attack damage. Everything adds up. She's got her earrings, which is stamina. So really, make sure your characters are maxed out in every way possible, because it's all going to help you get to that limit. Actually, while we talk about zero button setups, I'm going to mention this one. I'm hesitant to, because it requires a very, very specific set of things, but someone's going to bring it up if I don't talk about it, so I'm going to mention it. If you have killed Belial and you are willing to switch the key on your Dark Opus weapon, then you could potentially run Chain of Temptation because of this effect, various buffs. So this gives you a shit ton of buffs at the start of a fight. And the specific reason you want to use this is if you have Golden Knight. You do also need Golden Knight for this to work. And if you have Golden Knight and that key on your weapon, that chain on your weapon, then that gives you almost enough buffs that you can hit this limit, 15 buffs or more when attacking. You can get the extra buffs through various methods, charge attack, etc., etc., etc. But the goal is to get her to 15 buffs without hitting any buttons. Because you can do that, she will double charge attack. And then it'll let you do things like run Huanglong main summon, Huanglong support summon, and like go to town that way. Totally an option if you do have access to those things. I would say I don't really like Key of Temptation otherwise. So that's why I'm a little hesitant to suggest it, because it is a bit of an investment for something that you're not going to use all the time. But it's an option, and again, I'm mentioning it because someone else is going to if I don't. So that was a zero button one turn kill setup. And to be perfectly fair, a zero button OTK is very aspirational. It is extremely hard to do. It requires that you have a very large pool of characters to pull from. It requires that you have tons of different weapons that are very specific, access to a lot of summons, requires EMP, it requires plus marks. It's not easy to set up, so you shouldn't feel bummed out if you aren't able to zero button one turn kill. Now, a one button one turn kill, which is still very fast, is much easier. So let's talk about what that looks like. Okay, what if you don't have an Ilnat? Well, that's a fair question because she just came out and she is a limited character, so you might not have an Ilnat. If you don't, then you can also run this setup. Now, you will have to take Huanglong as your support summon, but we can still get there like this. Now, do note, in this setup, you're not going to be running Octo, because Octo requires 200% charge bar to double charge attack, and Huanglong's Call, which is what you're going to use to get full charge bar on everybody, doesn't actually give characters full charge bar. It brings them up to 100%. Also, I'm not running Cavalier anymore because Cavalier has lower charge bar gain. So Honglong's Call would only bring Cavalier Jita up to about 94%, so she wouldn't be able to charge attack. So instead, I'm going to run Asparagus because Asparagus can use a spear. Sorry, Apsara. The name of the class is Apsara. Because they can use a spear. But in theory, anyone that uses a spear would work here. So this is what this looks like. And I'm still running Sora's, still running Siegfried, but we're running Dante and Freyheit because kitties are awesome, but also because extra damage. So this is what this looks like. I love Freyheit. I love black kitties. Because Stig, who's taking a nap back there, you can see him. He's right there. There's a black kitty. Really worth it alone to have a black kitty beat the shit out of this boss. Ah, Stig's rolling around. I love him. Okay, here we go. There you go. Freyheit, fucking get him. There you go. One turn kill. And remember, we still have Silva back row, so that was pretty clean. Nice. So that's if you don't have an nail nut. But again, requires specific characters, just different specific characters. Benefit is none of these, like, all these 3 characters are regular pool, none of them are limited, so easier to get by another order of magnitude. So that was a 1-button OTK setup. And like I said, don't get it twisted. 1 button is still pretty hard to do. It still requires you have a lot of characters and a lot of weapons and a pretty good grid. But a character class was released relatively recently that made a 2-button OTK setup way more accessible to people who don't have as many characters, who don't have as well built a grid, just players who are a little bit newer. And that's Relic Buster. And the reason why is Relic Buster pretty much single-handedly solves the charge bar part of the equation. So like I've been saying, look at OTKs as a puzzle with multiple pieces to solve. And if you're going for a full burst setup, then getting everybody full charge bar is a big part of that puzzle. And Relic Buster solves that entirely. People used to try a similar strat with Engineer, and Engineer is fine, but honestly, Relic Buster is just way better at this. So I'm going to use this team. Here, we'll just jump in. But I'm using this specific setup to prove a point. So I'm running Cat in 3rd slot. Apple. Apple is my cat. Well, Stig is my cat, but Apple is my Granblue Fantasy cat. Because you're not going to need the 3rd character to 1-turn kill this up. So I'm running Double Titan. And the thing with Relic Buster is you want to hit Engage Augments, which gives 5 machine cells to Relic Buster, and then you hit Limit Burst, which will give everyone full charge bar. Now, note, it took Octo to full charge bar, not to 100%, to 200%. It will completely fill charge bar. So this should be super clean. Super clean. Let's see what it looks like. Ton of damage. Like, Octo is just going to destroy this. 35%, and it's not even gonna get to the 4th character. Katie's just hanging out to watch. There you go. So yeah, Relic Buster will make this a lot easier. Like this, like getting the full charge bar was a super part of the problem previously. So yeah, that is a 2-button setup, and then I'm not gonna get into like 3-button setups and 4-button setups because honestly, like, you can just keep adding buttons, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you are still having trouble even with a 2-button setup in Relic Buster, add more buttons. Like add a mist if you're not doing enough damage, add a skill damage nuke, add an assassin. It's fine. Like getting to 0 buttons is like the ultimate goal, right? The super high aspiration for these setups. But a 4-button setup is fine, a 5-button setup is fine. The more buttons you add, the more tedious like grindings repeatedly will be, but it's not that bad. The difference between a 2-button setup and a 3-button setup is like a second or 2. Really, it doesn't matter that much. The difference between like a 0-button setup and a 1-button setup is actually decent, but again, it's only a big deal multiplied across like thousands of clears of EX+. So don't fret. Like, if you have to add buttons, add buttons. Really, you just want to be able to one-turn kill the boss, because that's the cleanest way to do it. But yeah, hopefully this video has been helpful for you. Let me know if you're working on your OTK setup and how your Unite fight's going in general. If you're having trouble with your OTK, just, comment down below. Happy to give some tips and help each other out. If someone's asking, give them advice as well. Really, OTKs are a fun puzzle. I like them, not necessarily just because of like them being important, but because they're a puzzle to solve, and I like puzzles to solve in this game. So if you like this video, like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye!